Hey guys, welcome to today's video. We're going to take our time today and show you some of the tools that we use in our nursery and some of the products that we use in our nursery, because that's some of the hardest things to figure out when you're starting something like this in your backyard is what products are any good, what products are not good, what things do I need to use, which tools are useful, which tools are garbage, and what do I just really not need. It's easy to think that you've got to have all of this stuff to start your nursery with, and you really just don't. So I want to kind of narrow that down for you today and show you some of the actual things that you will need and that we use out here on a very regular basis. Kind of some of those we couldn't do our backyard nursery without these things. So check this out today and hopefully it'll be helpful to you. The first thing I want to show you is the pruning shears that I use, and these are made by Corona, like coronavirus. Ha ha. And they are really good pruning shears. I mean, you can get pruning clippers, shears, whatever you call them, at Walmart, Lowe's, anywhere, but I just really like these. I've been using this pair for, I guess, 5 years. They've never broken. I've never had to sharpen them. I leave them outside in the rain all the time, which I should not do. And rust is so minimal on them, and even my kids can use them. So they're just a great pair of shears. And I'm going to put links to all of these things below. We are absolutely in no way sponsored by any of these things I'm showing you. They're just things that we use in our nursery, and I know that they're all good, functional products. So speaking of my kids using these, thank y'all for buying those cuttings for my kids and voting for our Christmas tree stuff with our kids. We've had a ball with all this stuff, and they did get pizza that night. So for what it's worth, thank y'all for helping out. But yeah, the Corona pruning shears, classic 3/4 inch shears. They are pretty awesome. Another thing I wanted to show you, and I did a video on this several months ago, but it's this water-soluble fertilizer. It's called Peters. It's also called Jack's. It's the same brand. This is a fertilizer that we use for our really young plants. So when we're propagating plants and they begin to root into their plug trays or into their whatever kind of containers we're rooting them in, we give them a drench of Peters fertilizer. And this is just a fabulous growth starter type fertilizer. And you can buy Peters fertilizer for all kinds of applications, from a kind that's specific to roses, that's specific to tomatoes, that's specific to evergreens, or like this one that is specific to starting plants. It's a real root booster fertilizer. And again, there's a link in the description below to this, just to kind of show you what it looks like, to different sizes of this, just to give you an idea of a liquid fertilizer that'll get your plants off to a really good start. This is the one that we use here. Another thing I wanted to show you is these plug trays that we use probably more than any size that I use for propagating plants. I use a 50 count, which is what this is, and you can buy these in 72 is another common size. You can buy 38s, 32s, all sorts of sizes. There's many others, but this hey puppy, you're barking. I know, we're right here. This is just a flimsy plastic tray. These things won't last you a lot of seasons or anything like that. They're not intended for that, but if you're going to be doing any serious amount of propagation at all, you got to have some kind of little small containers in order to grow your plugs in. So this is kind of one of the unsung heroes in the nursery, is the plug tray, but you got to have these. 50 counts what we use the most. Another part of our nursery that I don't know what we'd do without it is the Dramm watering wand. And again, there are probably other good watering wands, but the ones that you're going to find at your box stores, your big box stores, are not what you want to use, because they have these multi-setting heads where you can spray it on a jet, or you can spray it on a mist or full, and none of those settings are really adequate for efficiently watering a large number of plants. You know, if you set it on that shower setting, it's still like a pressure washer, and for little small plants, it's really hard on them. The water volume, the amount of flow that comes from them is not good. It takes a long time to water a lot of plants. So with the Dramm watering wand, this one I have found is just amazing. It puts out a tremendous amount of water, but it puts it out not under a lot of pressure. So it's really ideal for watering anything from the smallest of plants, the youngest of plants, to any larger scale watering you want to do, even watering plants in your own landscape. It's really awesome for that. And I have this attached to a Flexzilla hose. Now this Flexzilla hose looks like absolute trash. It's turned black, I know, but this is what they look like after 4 going into 5 years of use. This thing used to be like neon yellow, but I never take it in. I don't bring it in when it freezes. I don't bring it in when it's 100 degrees outside. It stays outside all the time, and now going into year 5, it works as good now as it ever has. It doesn't leak anywhere. It doesn't leak at the fittings. We drive over this thing, and it just virtually never kinks. So can't say enough about the Flexzilla hose. I did a video about it by itself one day, but for a backyard grower, don't get lost in all the myriad of hoses there are out there to choose from. Flexzilla it's a great value, and I would just encourage you to try it out, or if you have a better suggestion, leave it in the comment below, and somebody's welcome to use it as well. And now you are looking at ground cover. It's a woven ground cover. A particular brand that's good is DeWitt. You don't want to go cheap on this stuff. It'll rip on you and it won't last, but this stuff that I have down here now has lasted for several years and it still looks fine. It's going to hold your weeds back. It's going to help you organize your nursery because of all these lines that it has on it. Helps you keep your pots in order, and can't say enough about how aggravating it is when you get overran with weeds, because I hate weeds and they'll ruin your nursery, and this cloth is one of the key pieces in that. So in the link below, there's a 3-foot wide section of it, but the wider you can buy a roll of it, the happier with it you're going to be. But just for getting started, you can use whatever size, and I think that'll help. And these scoopers that we use for our potting soil mix, you know, one of these scoopers completely full is exactly one of our pots full, one of our trade gallon pots full, and they last, they stay outside all the time, they're not going to tear up on you. And again, we'll link these below, but it's just a plastic grain scoop. You can probably find these at a feed store like Tractor Supply, or a local feed store, an Arrow feed store. I know they have those in Texas, but anyway, other places that will carry these. Pretty common item, but they're a must-have in the nursery. And of course, this is my shade house, and it's got a shade covering on it. It's called a shade cloth or a shade tarp. And I think this particular one is 60%, and that just speaks to how dense the shading is. So you can get very light shading, like 10%, to a very heavy shading, up to 90%, I believe. I think this one's 60%. You can get these in all sizes, all dimensions, from square to rectangle, and you can probably even get them custom cut, but this is just an example. And I can't tell you how valuable having some shade in your nursery is. Almost anything you grow is going to benefit from having even some light shade over it, because plants in a pot are just different than plants growing in the ground, and the sun is brutal on them in the summer in almost any area. So got to have some shade in your nursery, and here's a good example of it. So just showing you some of these things today. These are some of the things that I wish I knew about on day one of me starting out my own nursery, and they're things that you're going to need all the time in your nursery. Again, I'm not gaining anything here. I'm not sponsored or nothing like that, but all the links to these things are below if you want to just check them out to see what these things cost, to kind of help you plan and think about how you might get moving in your nursery. So I appreciate you watching today. I love all of you, and I'll see you on the next one.